For every manager who changed football, there's another who changed the club's mood for the worse, and today we're putting them side by side. But first, these videos take a ton of time to make, and yeah, I'm a teenager doing this from scratch, so every subscribe genuinely helps. Alright, let's start with the manager who made the ball feel like a leash. May 28th, 2011, Wembley. You can almost hear it before you see it, that tap 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 rhythm like a metronome in a stadium. One team is chasing shadows, the other is moving them, and when the ball finally hits the net, it doesn't feel like a goal. It feels like a plan reaching its final page. That's Pep Guardiola. He didn't invent playing out from the back or keeping the ball. He weaponized them. He turned control into a trap. Your press becomes his invitation, your aggression becomes his doorway. Quick backstory. Pep grows up inside Cruyff's Barcelona, where positioning matters as much as talent. As a coach, he takes that idea and sharpens it. Fullbacks slide inside. Midfielders move like pieces on a board. The press isn't chaos, it's synchronized hunting. His best teams don't just attack, they squeeze. They lock you in. They make the pitch feel smaller for you and bigger for them. And his turning point era is when the world stops calling it philosophy and starts calling it the blueprint. Whether it's that Wembley night or the later seasons where his teams rack up wins like they're on autopilot, the feeling is the same. Opponents aren't losing to better players, they're losing to a system. Of course, it splits people. Some see genius, others say it's sterile, boring, overthought, but even the critics end up copying the angles. But if Pep is control at its best, the next story is the opposite. A club trying to replace a dynasty with safe hands and watching the whole thing fall apart. The job came with a crown and a note that basically said, "Don't let anyone notice the king is gone." David Moyes wasn't walking into a normal rebuild, he was walking into a stadium still echoing with the old manager's last roar. And it started with symbolism. The chosen one banner went up. And suddenly it wasn't just football, it was prophecy. Every early wobble felt louder. Every draw felt like a warning. On the pitch, it never looked settled. The plan kept shifting. Cautious possession one week, direct and frantic the next, and the crowd could feel the uncertainty. You'd get games where it all ended in the same desperate move. Wide, cross, repeat. The moment that became a meme, a 2-2 draw with Fulham, where United spammed a record 81 crosses. Not clever adjustments, not new identity, just volume. Then the pressure hits full force. A 4-1 Derby loss to City. Everton coming to Old Trafford and winning 1-0, with Moyes watching his old club outmuscle his new one. Headlines stop asking, "What's the idea?" and start asking, "How long until he's gone?" This isn't a talentless manager story, it's a mismatched story. A measured, methodical coach trying to follow an era that ran on aura and fear. And when that kind of aura disappears, you realize how rare it was. Which brings us to the standard setter who made that job look easy for decades. May 26th, 1999, Barcelona. United are one goal away from heartbreak, the clock is basically a bully, and then chaos. Corner, flick, another corner, another touch, the net moves, the stadium detonates. That's the Ferguson story in one scene. You can play him for 80 minutes and still feel like you're losing. His magic was never one system, it was standards. If you didn't run, you didn't play. If you got comfortable, you got replaced. Superstar, academy kid, didn't matter. The club had a temperature and he kept it boiling. The scary part? He didn't build one great team, he rebuilt them over and over. Different eras, different leaders, same belief that the late winner was coming, because with him, it usually did. You could see it at Old Trafford. Opponents start clearing the ball early, time wasting too soon, making nervous decisions they'd never make anywhere else. The crowd rises, the pressure multiplies, and suddenly the match feels tilted. When he left, it wasn't just a manager retiring, it was the club losing its internal compass. And that's why everything that followed felt heavier than it should have. And when a giant starts doubting itself, it reaches for quick fixes. Sometimes that means hiring safe when the club needs fire. And the next chapter at Liverpool is exactly that. You could feel it in the first few weeks. This wasn't a club striding forward, it was a club bracing for impact. Liverpool is built on emotion and edge. Even when they're struggling, there's supposed to be a pulse. Under Roy Hodgson, the vibe turned cautious fast. Press conferences felt like damage control. On the pitch, it looked like football played with the handbrake on. Safe passes, slow build-up, attacks ending in hopeful balls that screamed, "Someone, please do something." And the moments that stuck weren't just defeats, they were mood shifters. Wolves coming to Anfield and winning 1-0 made the ground feel stunned. The derby at Goodison turning into a 2-0 loss felt like Liverpool couldn't even argue back. Then came Blackpool winning at Anfield. And the noise wasn't just anger, it was disbelief. Even the cup nights didn't save it. Going out to Northampton Town in the League Cup wasn't just an upset. It was the kind of result that makes people check the table twice. The cruel part is, there were flashes too, like the Europa League night where Gerrard's hat-trick against Napoli briefly made it feel like a switch had flipped, and then the league reality pulled it right back. To be fair, the timing was poisonous. Ownership chaos, squad imbalance, pressure everywhere. But at a club that survives on belief, a cautious tone can feel like surrender. And once the fans smell surrender, the whole place tightens. Hodgson wasn't a villain. He just arrived when Liverpool needed liftoff, and he managed like the priority was landing safely. And after that kind of flat energy, the next swing of the pendulum had to be extreme, because the next guy didn't just want control, he wanted a fight. Think of a Champions League night where everything is against you, the crowd, the momentum, the noise, and your team is still standing there like, good, we like this. That's José Mourinho at his best. He doesn't sell dreams, he sells certainty, clear roles, clear plan, clear enemy, and once players buy into it, the whole team moves like a unit built for survival. Mourinho's greatest trick is psychological. He turns pressure into oxygen. He creates a siege mentality so strong that even ugly football feels like a badge of honor. A 1-0 isn't lucky, it's controlled. A defensive block isn't scared, it's disciplined. His movie scene moment? The 2010 Champions League semi-final against Barcelona. Inter take a lead in the first leg, then go to the Camp Nou and defend like it's a war film. Bodies flying, time draining, the crowd roaring, and Mourinho sprinting onto the pitch at the end like a man who just stole the crown. That's why he's unforgettable. The tactics work, but the theatre makes it stick. Some people love him. Some people can't stand the mind games, the paranoia, the win ugly pride. But you can't deny it. He delivers and he makes it feel personal. And sometimes clubs see that personality and think, we just need a smart coach. Then they drop one into a storm and act shocked when the storm wins. This is the good coach, impossible room story. Chelsea hired Graham Potter like they were buying a long-term blueprint. Then they threw him into a season that demanded instant miracles. The squad ballooned, new signings kept arriving, and every match felt like a different puzzle with different pieces. Roles got messy fast. When roles are messy, confidence disappears. One week it's a back three, next week it's a back four. One game has 2 number 10s, the next has none, and you could feel the uncertainty in the final third. Nice build-up, then hesitation, then sideways passes, then the crowd starts groaning because nobody looks sure who's meant to take responsibility. The environment didn't help. The spending was massive. The patience was tiny. By late February 2023, Chelsea had won just once in their previous 11 matches. And when you're getting hit with nights like the 4-0 loss at Manchester City in the FA Cup, the story writes itself, he's out of his depth. But reality is harsher and simpler. Chelsea were rebuilding while still being judged like a finished super team. Potter didn't fail because he can't coach. He failed because calm, gradual ideas don't survive in a place that treats every week like a final. Now let's flip to a manager who feeds on chaos. May 7th, 2019, Anfield. Liverpool need 4. No Salah, no Firmino. The sensible version of reality says, nice try. Then the stadium starts shaking. Klopp's teams don't just press, they pounce. The moment you take a bad touch, you're surrounded. 2 red shirts become free, and suddenly the ball is flying toward your goal like it's been stolen. But Klopp's real gift isn't just intensity, it's belief. He makes players feel brave. He makes fans feel involved. Tackles get cheered like goals. Setbacks don't kill momentum, they spark it. That Barcelona comeback is the perfect snapshot. Wave after wave, the crowd louder after every duel, and then that corner, taken quickly, and the finish that turns the impossible into something you can literally hear. That's why Klopp works. He gives a club an identity you can feel in the stands. Heavy metal football, connection, a team that looks like it's playing for the badge, not just the paycheck. Critics will say it's too intense. that it burns teams out, fair. But at his peak, he turns football into an emotional event, and that's rare. And when you've seen that kind of connection, the next story hits even harder, because it's what happens when reputation walks into a giant job, and reality doesn't care. Valencia wasn't a soft landing, it was a spotlight. Gary Neville arrived with a famous name and almost no runway. New league, new language, a restless dressing room, and a fan base that can smell uncertainty from a mile away. His first European night at Mestalla ends in a 2-0 loss to Lyon, and from there, the noise only grows. The league form was brutal. Valencia went 9 league games without a win at the start of his reign, and he didn't get a league victory until his 10th match. That's not time to learn, that's a countdown. And then came the humiliation that followed him everywhere, losing 7-0 to Barcelona in the Copa del Rey. At that point, it's not even about tactics, it's about survival. Every day becomes a storm of questions, clips, debates, and jokes, because when you're already famous, failure spreads faster. To his credit, this isn't a laugh at him story, it's a warning. Big clubs don't let you become a manager on the job. They demand you arrive as one. That's the difference. Great managers give clubs an identity you can feel. Bad spells leave everyone asking what the plan even is. And if you think bad management hurts, wait until you see what wasted potential looks like. Click the next video on screen.